So I am Sayema, and I'm a radio host back in India with a station called Radio Mirchi. I've completed almost 29 years in radio, and I started radio when I was in school. Started with All India Radio and then joined private FM station, joined Radio Mirchi, and has been there ever since. Currently, I am hosting two shows. One is a retro show. It basically deals with the Bollywood retro music. And that's a show which is one of the longest running shows in India, almost 20 years. And it plays in the American market and the UAE market and some of the cities of India as well. In Delhi, I do the mid morning band, and that's a live show. That's the afternoon show that I do.
What drew you to radio?
I think it was my passion of diction. So when I was small, when I was like in school, uh, I used to be very mesmerized with a particular voice on radio, which was actually the introduction of a newsreader, and it began something like, "This is All India Radio, the news read by so and so." And I always thought that maybe someday I'll hear my own voice on radio saying, "This is All India Radio, the news read by Sayema Rahman." And I would sit with a newspaper every evening and read the news in that fashion. So now when I look back, I think it was the sheer sound, the sheer voice that mesmerized me into the medium. And I initially entered as a newsreader, and then I started doing a lot of shows.
You started in radio, but at the same time you were studying social work. Why did you decide to study social work when you were working in radio?
So radio was always my passion. It was after school. In fact, when I was in school, I called up All India Radio and I said I wanted to join as newsreader. And they said, "Well, you're too young to even take the audition. You've got to be a graduate." And I was a little heartbroken. And they sensed it that I was sad. So they told me that there is a section of teenagers in All India Radio and maybe I can come and take the auditions. And the next day I went there, took the auditions and cleared it. And I joined the teenager section of All India Radio, and my journey of radio began from there. But it was just passion. I was just very interested there. Radio as a career wasn't like a something to look forward to. It wasn't a stable one. It was like a government job. If you could get a government job in a radio station, that was the only thing that could be offered. Otherwise, you were a casual presenter. So I could have never imagined my career in radio till finally the private FM stations came in. And radio became a full-time job for a whole lot of us. At that point of time, I was pursuing sociology honors from one of the colleges, and post that, I went for masters in social work. And that was the time when I was also hosting a show as a part-timer in Radio Mirchi. It was the year 2004. Actually 2005, when I was given the Best Radio Jockey Award nationally. And that was the year when I had to take the decision of either joining my department as a professor or joining as a, full-time radio professional. And I decided to go with my passion because it was the kind of work that I enjoyed so much. So that year, when I felt that radio has given me so much and I now owe it to the medium, is when I shifted to radio full time. And the rest is history, as they say.
You spoke about your national news reading, and you were a national newsreader between 1997 and 2002. Which stories were you drawn to most?
The typical role of a national news reader used to be, a set of news headlines that was given to you. And at a particular point of time, a bulletin would go on air. So they were largely political stories that had to be read out in a very formatted way. Your tone had to be neutral. The names had to be right. And we would never go into opinions and discussions at that point of time. So it was just a news story that, the editors would hand it over to us and we would read it. We had no say, no discussions, no opinions, just reading out the news bulletin. So that was that. And honestly, it wasn't about the news stories. It was about my diction. It was about the way I was speaking. It was the way I heard myself and the sound on radio that were that you know was the more exciting part of it. So no particular stories. We didn't have a say in those stories at all.
After having a syndicated show, Purani Jeans from about.
So Purani Jeans launched as a Delhi show. In fact, it was offered to me. It was a nighttime band, 9 p.m. time band. And I was brought in with a challenge that this time band on radio is not working at all. We don't have any ads, no revenue, and we needed a fresh talent. And when they actually brought me in, the funny side is I was a Western, music presenter on All India Radio. So I used to play the Metallicas and John Bon Jovi's and the Nirvanas of the world. When I was asked to do Bollywood retro musical show at night, and it was a challenge because I was discovering the music, with hosting the show also. But the challenge was that my competitors had very established radio hosts. And within 4 months, I had to take the show to the number one position. And I did that. In 4 months, I took, Purani Jeans to the number one position. And the show was a success story, one of the biggest success stories in Delhi. And that's when Mirchi wanted to replicate it to the rest of the country. That's when Purani Jeans became syndicated. So while every day I used to think, what would be a Delhi citizen be doing at 9 p.m. at night? I started thinking about different cities and what people would be doing. And then I thought, okay, what is an average person in India doing at 9 o'clock at night? And I started speaking to that person. And then from India, it went to America and it went to UAE, and that's where it gets broadcast right now. So my reference range is that one person who is with me on radio listening to the show is a little stressed, little worried. How do I ensure that he or she sings along a little with me and unwinds for the day? So yeah, that's the reference point for a syndicated show.
It's a wonderful story. So did you play a part in having it syndicated, or was that all up to Radio Mirchi?
No, I do not have a part in making it syndicated. It is the editorial team which basically decides which show would go where. And they are the ones who decided that, the show needs to travel beyond Delhi and then beyond India.